Walk down the hallway. Did we switch spots, me and Brian?
All right.
We're ready to go.
All right, I'll call the meeting to order. It's agenda date, time, and location were properly announced. Thank you for coming tonight. We will start off with the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of February 17th, 2025. Is there a motion to approve? Who is that? Kate? Is there a second? A second. Chris, any corrections? Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have the payment of the bills. Is there a motion to approve for the month of February, the amount of $1,050,629.11?
So move.
Chuck, is there a second? I'll second. Was that Rainey? Okay. Any questions?
I didn't get any questions. Were there any other questions?
I have a question on the cash summary.
Okay.
Can I ask that one now? So just more curiosity, the grant for peer review mentoring, I'm just wondering who that's from and more specifically how that's used. What is the peer review mentoring model?
That's the grants that we're doing for our new teachers, right? For peer mentoring, which one is?
We used it last year for peer mentoring. Okay.
So we were given a grant 2 years ago, actually. This was one of the last things that Mindy did, is applied for this grant, a way for us to mentor our new teachers. And Becky, through this grant, we've kind of revamped our new teacher mentorship, done some new things with it, and it was paid for by a grant. I believe it's like CISA 7 had threw this out there.
Yeah, there's a couple schools together on it.
Yeah, we're a co-op with a couple other schools with that.
Cindy's actually one of the, or Cindy, well, Debbie, sorry.
Really?
You're
Anything you want to talk about the peer mentoring grant? How's it going?
Mentoring, I think, is going well.
Okay.
Yeah, we had a lot of new teachers this year, so it's tough making, finding enough people to mentor all of them, but when I touch base with the new teachers, they really like Random Lake. They feel that they've been supported, so.
And then just another question, the PILT in parentheses Sherman. That didn't look familiar to me, so I wondered what it was.
We didn't move taxes, so we'll get that every year from Sherman Scott. If somebody, they'll have extra funds that they won't in, that's what they said.
Thank you. That's all.
Okay, any other questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Anything else on the cash summary?
No, I think I'm good unless there's any other questions.
We have donations.
Yes, couple just really cool things that we continue to have. First of all, again, thank you to Tommy over at the pizzeria. Because we couldn't do an open house and things weren't quite put together as they were, we did a modified open house on, March 4th, right? And kept people in the new areas. And Tommy donated the ice cream for that again. So thank him for providing that sweet treat for our kids. We had so much, I think we gave some away even at school the next couple of days. So he went over and above what we needed. Second, thank you to All American HVAC. This family just came with $1,100 and said, hey, we know there's a band trip to Disney. If there's any family that need a little extra help, here, please use this, because we want to make sure nobody doesn't go because of that. So all fantastic is that. And then Donors Choose for Mrs. Anderson. I think that's supposed to be $200 per classroom. Is it just 20? $20. Okay, there we go. That was an easy Donors Choose then. I don't know what you get for $20 for essentials, maybe pencils.
Kleenex.
Kleenex, oh, that's what that's it, there you go.
Well, thank you to everyone. Comments from the public? None tonight? Okay. That takes us to referendum discussion. Anything on referendum?
I did not get the update to them today for the flyer, but I will have it this week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we'll send it, updates right now. You got to walk by, you can see our old high school library is now in demo mode. Rini and I, after our meeting, our new library is coming together. We don't have carpeting, but there's paint, some ceiling, the grid is up and some ceiling tiles. So if you want to wander down and kind of see once you can start, the places are starting to come together. So I'm just gonna say it again. Every week, we have somebody new moving. So right now, Lee in the IT department is in the process of moving. There's nothing better than moving and having your regular job at the same time. But we're doing that by the end of this week or when we get back. Jamie Utech is gonna be moving. Second grade is gonna have to move. So just thank you to everyone that's being flexible and just helping us get through this year. We will get there and it's all worth it in the end.
Are these temporary moves or moving into a finished space?
No, these are moving so we can, first grade, we moved 2 weeks ago because the sewer is under one of those and we want to get into that over spring break. And some of these moves we're doing now, because we were worried about summer being too tight, like 3 months isn't enough to get done the whole elementary, middle school. So once about April 15th, the corridor that goes along this way down the elementary by the old elementary office and the corner up to second grade where that bathroom is, that's actually gonna be done almost before we leave for school, which will make sure that the restoration over summer, they're hoping they're gonna be able to hand it back to us the first week of August to really give us time to move it. So we're doing some adjustments on the fly to try to make sure that we have a little easier move-in than we did this last September. So,
Like my move is permanent.
Okay.
yeah, your move is permanent though. Yeah, some are permanent, I guess,
Some
some
are
are,
permanent, so.
like Mrs. Utech, that's temporary, second grade is temporary, first grade was temporary. But we're trying to do things. Becky and I took first grade, the entire first grade skating to give the staff a little bit of time to set up, so watching a bunch of first graders tyke around and skating at Blue Line, just the little things we're trying to do to make everyone's life as, I wouldn't say, as good as possible under the consideration, under what we're going through. So, yeah,
We're working on a field trip for second grade as well.
Yeah.
We can have that time to just set up. I appreciate my being
we're finding ways.
Okay, anything else on referendum? All right, building reports.
Okay, so we're doing something a little bit different for building reports. We see a couple different people in here. We're trying to get more voices instead of just the administrators. So part of the building reports this month and going forward, we're gonna try to find some people that can actually share what's happening in those areas. So I don't know if you wanna kinda, I know you guys are gonna kick it off and then you can introduce from there. So go ahead.
Perfect. So last week, the first week of March, we had Reed Cross Random. Jamie Utech organized all that. It was a construction theme, so it was super fun. They did, they dressed up like construction workers. One of the days wore bright colors, another day. One of the days, Mike took us, the classrooms, on a tour of the new spaces, and they get to see that. And then one of the days, they wrote thank you letters to all the construction workers during their character ed classes. So just really special how Jamie has really used this opportunity to teach students a little bit more about what it takes to build a building and connect it to reading, which is really cool. Starting this week, we're doing the Ames web testing again and the Forward. And I think middle school is also testing this week with Forward as well. So not only is Lee moving, he's also supporting us in their technology pieces as we begin our online testing. So it's always something, but just excited to see all the progress that the students have made.
All right, so STEMinosity, this came out of the 6th grade STEM class. And so Cindy Barber hosted our first STEMinosity, where they created different kits that then they had on display and for sale for elementary up through 6th grade. And they were really cute. They created bird feeders and frogs that hopped, and it was a lot of different little neat things. So it was really a lot of fun, but that's just a part of the work that Cindy and Debbie are doing leading into the STEM and the robotics and the Lego challenge, where we're really trying to get more in the computer science and the coding and things like that. So we wanted to feature this month our robotics team, where when last month they had competed at Brookfield and did very well. So I am going to send it over to Debbie and the middle school students.
We printed out a couple of the portfolios that the kids had to put together as part of the competition. And we only have a part of the team here. Our complete team consisted of Tucker Yoder, Brody Thomas, Jackson Beth, and then we have Nicholas Dirks, and there was Eli Message, Liam Message, Levi Stickler, which is here, and Jackson Spady. And then we had 4 adults that mentored or helped out with the team. It was Hannah Pratt, Taylor Thomas, Mr. Rickson, and myself. And then we also had sponsors to help us purchase not just the robot here, Spike, but also each team gets a field. It's a 12 by 12 field, and we just brought a part of it to do our demonstration. But we were able to get a grant through Google and DPI to get that, and we also had a donation from All American Legion. All right, guys.
So, in the beginning of your season, you start off with a kit robot. And throughout the season, you're supposed to add things that will help you do better in competition. And for us, whenever we were clipping these blocks onto here, we had an issue with our robot. Like, the front of it would lift into the air whenever we were trying to put blocks on, and it would tip backwards. So we added these spikes, which give it a little bit of weight, and that's also how it's got its name, Spike. We also have this spike on the bottom, which is what we use to hang our robots.
Hanging the robot is one way that you gain points at the end of the competition. If your robot is hanging, then you get more points, and whether it's on the low bar or the high bar.
All right, so.
And then we use
So it took Levi a while. I mean, there were 3 guys that were really trying to learn how to drive, and then they picked who the best driver was to actually drive for competition. Takes a while to get the hang of it. Do you have anything else to say, Levi, about the robot?
we have an extendable arm. At times
It's
that will
extended.
happen.
It's extended. You're good. You don't have to pick here. It's fine. So after the robot, we have the coding portion of FTC. There is the autonomous coding and the teleop coding. The autonomous code is where the robot is pre-programmed to accomplish some tasks that you have to do. For example, ours drops one of said blocks into a bucket and it scores some points. And this is just, the robot does it on its own. You start it up and it works. and this is a 30-second period at the start of game matches. So after that, there is the 2-minute long teleop period, which is where the robot is programmed to be able to be controlled by a controller. We are using an Xbox 360 controller, and it's plugged into our drive hub. Right here. And going through coding, there's been a lot of trial and error trying to fix some things, but after a long time, we've done many things, like for example, in the teleop coding, we've managed to change the speed of the arm so that it can go up and down faster, but still be controllable. And then there's been many other occasions where we've had to fix some things in the code like that, but it's been handed to me.
After we finished coding and designing our robot, we moved on to competitions. Our competitions start off as making it to the buildings. We almost right away have to go to judging. There are 2 steps to that. The first step is going through size and arm length to make sure that it's all within competition qualities, so that way nothing hurts anyone. And then the second part is we bring it onto the field to make sure that nothing wrong will happen out there. Once we finish that, we head to our table and set that up. During competitions, we will have 2 people set at our table to answer questions from other teams or from judges. Once we have finished setting everything up, almost right away, we will usually have judging. Judging is kind of like what we're doing here today. We will usually have around 2 to 3 judges who will listen to who we are, what we do, how we made this, and how we reach out to the rest of our community. Once judging is finished, we usually have a meeting with the rest of the teams to figure out matches. On average, it's 5 to 6 matches per team. It's a round-robin style tournament, 2v2, 2 robots on each side. Sometimes you could be allianced with someone, next match you could be against them. By the end of the around 20 matches total, you will have the top 6 teams pick 6 other partners for the state qualifiers. Once you finish picking, you will be stuck with your alliance partner that they have chosen for the rest of the day. During that time, you will have much faster and shorter, well, not shorter, but much faster happening matches. By the end of it, only 1 team wins it all, and they're the team who gets to go to state. Our furthest that we have made it is 3rd by the end of pre-qualifiers and 4th overall.
Yeah, impressive. So this year, because this is the first year we've had this FTC robotics. We've done the first Lego League, which is the Spike robots, for a couple of years. But I think the team in their first year really learned how to work as a team, how to make decisions with including everybody, and learned a lot on as far as programming, putting it together. Our goal for next year, they'll get the parts that they'll be able to build another robot through the Google grant. They'll give us the money to buy like a second one where they can put different wheels on, make more modifications. We're hoping to get more kids involved and more educate the community and maybe get even some more sponsors. You guys have any questions for them or?
So how many people are actually in the team that's competing from our school? There's
8 was this year. We're hoping to
8
increase
students.
that.
Okay.
There's 8 students. We have
4
4 mentors, and then we have the robot.
We have Miss Poole, Mr. Itzen, Miss Hannah, and then Taylor.
Did any of you guys do the Lego League before this year?
Yes, I have.
Most of us.
I have about 3.5 years experience with the
Two.
How did that help you with this?
It's
Same type of
a lot
program.
easier coding. It just It's similar coding, except the code is still a lot more advanced and different.
It allows you to problem solve much better because you understand the coding that actually works well with this robot. So that way you know, oh, this is happening wrong. You have prior experience with those problems.
And probably the presentation, because you have to present in the other one also, just in a different way.
And the last part about that is, the thing we couldn't do this year in coding is called JavaScript. It's basically where you do almost the same thing as blocks, it's just you're writing them or typing them onto a script for commands instead. We weren't able to do JavaScript because we didn't have the right platform to do it, which is called Android Studio. But we got that way too late in the year, and it was already at the point in time where it's just like, it's not really working anymore, so let's just go with what we have.
But next
Any
year,
more
we also
questions?
hope to start earlier, because we'll have the materials earlier. And every year, it's a new theme and a new field. So kind of the same basic ideas of grabbing or putting things in, but it's a different field, so you have to reprogram, you have to re-strategize.
Any other questions?
You do anything like this in the high school level then? Like once you guys are done with
Oh,
middle school? do you
yes.
have to-
Actually, I'll let him
there's-
talk about that because he's gonna get to go in that.
Starting freshman year up to, I believe, senior, there's first robotics competition. You build everything from scratch. Every year there's a brand new kind of competition, like FTC, you mainly clip things, put things in buckets, things like that. FRC, you can end up shooting basketballs with your robot.
And that's more at the county level, Random Lake doesn't. It's a lot of times where schools will combine.
FRC, we're talking about $30,000 a year for the cost of the robot. FTC actually does go up to high school, so it starts at middle.
Seventh grade.
Yeah, seventh grade, and it will go all the way to 12. So they actually competed against some high school teams that were doing it as well. We do have two really good FRC teams clubs in the state. One in Sheboygan Falls, one in Sheboygan. I think North and South work together for it. So we do have two good teams that are there in the state. They are looking for a third, but just the cost and everything is kind of crazy. So I think they're talking to possibly see if they're going to be willing to step up. So we'll see. But I know in the past, quite a few years ago, we had at least one student go up and work with Robo Riot up in Sheboygan Falls, I think is where they are. Sheboygan Falls, and do their FRC with their FRC team. I don't know if you guys remember Gavin Jock.
Then we've had two.
Then we have two. Who else?
We've had
did we
two.
have?
Because actually, Cindy Barber's son.
Oh, yes,
Did it.
yes, that's right, he did it too. So, but, yeah, so, because like we've been doing FLL for, gosh, almost 10 years now. I think I started my first or second year, so.
What happens to Spike after this year? Does he stay alive?
I'm sure that will be keeping him as a
I'm pretty sure
collaborator.
he's staying,
We
yeah.
might
Yeah,
use parts off of them.
yeah, we'll, because, the robot, truthfully, Hannah and I built it at a training. Next year, the only thing they're showing us at the trainings is how to use the new wheels and some other parts. They're gonna rebuild a brand new one, I hope, and probably use parts off of it, and probably use the 3D printers and stuff to build some others, and so. We did a lot of good
Already, these guys have learned, they had to learn how to crimp the wires and that. In fact, when we were practicing just before here, one of the wires broke and they quickly fixed it. So,
I don't want to get too far into the weeds, but this is really interesting to me. So does each group or each team gets, what are the basic parts you get to build your robot? I mean,
This right.
it's basically what it was is what Google bought for us you can go on, there's a company called Andy Mart, and they sell kits that are based, and they're not the only ones who do it. This Andy Mart's usually one of the better ones, but they sell a kit this is a robot you can build
the
that
basic.
will complete the challenge.
But then lots of teams will add to it or 3D print parts to it. We have a very basic claw. There were some teams that 3D printed claws that had, they were longer clinchers. And so you can add to that robot.
There's also teams that fully fabricate
Yep.
their entire robot. They don't use a kit at all.
Wow.
So really all there is basically you have to fit it within a certain size and it has to do certain, there's a whole set of rules, but.
There's a height limit and stuff,
Height
yeah.
limit, weight, length limit,
Wow.
weight limit. There was a team that was all girls that they, same type of robot, but they 3D printed a lot of their parts so they were pink. You know, I mean, which I thought that was kind of cool. So it was like, we weren't required to use this kit, but it's just, this was, you know, first year, easy way to get started. Next year, we're gonna look at expanding.
And that's what we're hoping to get some other
yeah.
people on the team that maybe have a little bit more experience with 3D printing, that they can contribute. We're hoping to get some people that are more with, like, make our portfolio a little better, maybe make even a website so that we can educate. Because part of the judging is not just, when they do their presentation, their portfolio, part of it is sustainability and part of it is outreach on how did you get the community involved, what did you do for the community, and that.
Also, I will say next year we are going to be building a robot from scratch, so it's going to be a lot harder. Next year, we're hoping for way more participants.
So this won't replace the Lego stuff? It's
No, this is just the next step up. It'll be interesting to see where it goes because you can start in 7th grade. And so I think we'll be losing some people to go here because it'll be tough to do both.
When does the Lego, can they start that?
Well, both can start in August, September,
Great,
but
why
the FLL competition is, depending on the date that we pick, is November, December, where theirs is, well, actually, it can start. they might
Yeah,
do
we
it,
go.
Yeah, so, they're hoping, one of the outreaches they can do is to help mentor the FLL.
FLO starts, it starts high elementary. Like we had,
Fourth.
Fourth
It starts with 4th grade, but we did not take, we took the kids' competition, didn't have them compete, just so they got the experience. They still built a robot, they still programmed the robot, they still came up with the problem and their presentation, we just didn't have them compete, so that they could just go and experience it, because it can be a lot.
Also, I will probably say, I'm pretty sure 5th grade, when you're gonna let them, like, compete with the rest of the older kids. Next year, I'm gonna see what I can do to try to join FLL, and also try to mentor FLL, but I'm probably gonna be sticking more to FTC.
yeah,
So would sponsorships allow for more upgrades to the robot, or is there like a cap? on
No,
how much
there is no
you can
cap.
invest?
There's no cap, I mean, I know there's probably a good 5 other people that are planning to join the team, so that would make it 13 kids with 1 robot, so, yeah, there's no cap.
Also, I will say, going a little bit back to FRC, the FRC robots, they're not small, they're like this, but 5
Yeah,
to 6
they're
times
like-
bigger.
Yeah,
They're huge.
they're about waist high when they're on the,
What's the cost of a kit like that, or just a basic?
our cost with the, you know, again, I think our cost came to be about full with everything with the kit and, the field ran us just over three to 4
was that our cost or the total cost?
total cost. We really didn't pay anything through grants.
Grants, right?
Yeah,
The cost was,
but Google paid for, it was about $3,000, and then TPI paid for us another bonus to it, was, if I remember correctly, or something like that, so, which was really nice. You know, so we were able to, they did a good job with this. Like I touched it to help build it to begin with, and I didn't touch the robot the rest of the time, so, which was good.
I'm impressed.
Yeah,
That's so
yeah,
cool.
that's awesome, guys. You did a great job.
Great job. Great job presenting it
Yes,
too.
very nice.
Is
Thank
it
you.
fun?
Yes, it's a lot of fun.
You got a lot out of it, like your ability to come out here and do a presentation like this is amazing, and I bet a lot of kids your age couldn't do that, right? So
No,
you've
you're
learned a lot
building
about how
foundational
to.
things that'll help you so much in the future. You have no idea what this is doing for you right now. It'll expand your growth. It's phenomenal.
Also, I will say, if we had the full team of 8 people here, it's like probably one part per person in the presentation. It's a decently long presentation. And after we get the presentation done, just like, oh, how lovely, we get to go back to our table and do whatever and chill. Nope, judges come around to your table, they ask you more questions.
2 people have to stay at the table at once.
It's almost like a dolphin.
If I may add on to the FRC FTC part, next year, since I'm planning to do FRC, thankfully, it's later in the day than FTC, so I'll be able to balance both FRC and FTC to help these guys next year learn how to code JavaScript, learn how to make the robot and all that.
The FRC's actually just started their competitive year probably about a month ago. So they start way later, they go through till the end of the school year.
Well, thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.
Fight back.
Sophia.
Yeah. Well done.
Grandma's proud.
Yeah.
Jackson's a speaker.
Yeah. Next, we have a really great video. These are all the cereal boxes that we collected from both elementary and middle school. And then Pam and the middle school leadership team created a video. It gets sent in. And maybe you want to share a little bit more. I think there's.
So this is the third year where we've done the cereal challenge. So you collect cereal boxes and then you create a domino type piece with it. So, and you can submit it and you could potentially earn some things. We haven't earned anything, but we always have fun putting it together. So we wanted to share the cereal challenge video with you.
I have to ask, are those empty or full boxes?
They're full. Because then they get donated to the food pantry. So between elementary and middle, I think we collected about 275 cereal boxes. And then they put together the design and did the video. It took them a couple hours, yeah, to, you know, to get it all to, yeah, go just right.
What grade level was that? Or what level?
Well, elementary and middle collected them together, but then that was the middle school student leadership that did the video, put that together. All right, so moving on to our Strong Community Connections, we have Jake Frias here to talk a little bit about our Start College Now and Youth Apprenticeship.
Remember about 4 or 5 years ago, we used to have to get to Start College Now, students would have to have it approved by the board. That changed, so we thought we'd just make it part of, because this is really where our Strong Community Connections start. And Jake threw it together, so you want to talk a little bit about the numbers here, Jake?
Absolutely. A few years ago, we brought scope meetings to the People Services Department, really being intentional with every student, meeting with every family, every student, making sure that we know exactly what they want to do, even from the 8th grade level, and we are putting them in classes, electives, and making sure they have a pathway as freshmen right from the get-go. That being said, we've really started to grow our Start College Now program and our Youth Apprenticeship program. Within our Start College Now program, we have a partnership with our tech schools in Marine Park, LTC, and MATC locally. And that breaks down really our 5 categories of where kids are taking classes at next year. Health science, the trades, criminal justice, business, and then psychology are our big ones. And with that, I added in looking at every student that's taking those classes, every one of those students has taken what we offer here at Random Lake High School within that pathway. And if they haven't taken it yet, they'll be taking it simultaneously next year with their Start College Now courses. We actually also have an early college credit applicant, too, within architecture. He'll also be potentially working as a YA with Quash's Construction. That was a connection that we had previously from years past when we first started doing youth apprenticeship, and I gave him a call and said, hey, we got a kid that wants to do architecture. They had a great call last week, and we're looking to hopefully get them connected for a full-time apprenticeship on top of the early college credit program through UW-Milwaukee. Looking at about 28% of our upperclassmen that will be taking a Start College Now or early college credit program, which is phenomenal. Looking at our youth apprenticeship program, there again, looking at the career pathways, I broke it down by class, class 2026 and class 2027. Looking at 49 applicants going into next year, which is great. We've got a lot of new companies within our wheelhouse. I say Rolodex. Some of the kids don't understand Rolodex these days, but really I want to touch on our health sciences. We've got 10 students, 4 of which with their CNAs, 2 of which that are working on their CNAs. I was talking to Dr. Trimberger the other day, and I sent the email out within 10 minutes to 3 hospitals that we're working with. Were already emailing me back wanting to do interviews with some of these kids. So that'd be pretty phenomenal for some of these seniors that are looking to get into the health science field. And then looking at manufacturing and transportation and distribution and logistics, we've got a couple kids there that have their second year of apprenticeship. They're doing so well that the companies want them back for a second year next year. And like I was telling Mrs. McDonald before we started here today, some of these kids are enjoying it. Some of these kids are liking it, but they're also realizing maybe this might not be something I want to do the rest of my life. We'd rather them learn that now versus after they're graduated. They can take those notes and take those lessons learned in those different career pathways and apply them elsewhere after they graduate. Looking at our current data, so you compare 49 applicants this year to 44 last year. Right now we are near the top of Sheboygan County of all high schools, even the big ones, with the amount of applicants we have. And those that didn't get placed in specific apprenticeship placements this past year were placed into work experience outlets that were similar to what they want to do in a pathway. So really of those 44 applicants, I would say 77% were in some type of work-based learning experience, getting them hands-on experience. Again, they're taking the courses here, freshman, sophomore, junior year that they need within that pathway, and we're giving them that kind of push out of the nest, supporting them in their careers, what they want to do after high school. Any questions on the data at all?
When you have that current data, did you have like a ranking? Did you say something about among the state or the area?
Among the area, yep. We are near the top of all Sheboygan County high schools with the amount of applicants for youth apprenticeships. And then if you looked at us per capita, we are right up there with the amount of kids that are actually getting placed percentage-wise.
And I would beg to bet that we're probably towards the top of the number of students graduating with new credits. I mean, what the high school's done to really focus in on individual students and their interest and then cater around that is pretty remarkable.
Is there a set number of hours per week that if they're involved in an apprenticeship, the student participates, or is it depending on whatever?
It's going to be dependent. I mean, they can't work more than 30, but the employers, every situation is different. Every circumstance is different. There's going to be students who are athletes and who are in extracurriculars that can only work so many hours a day, which is totally acceptable. There's also kids that are not athletes, they're not extracurricular students. They're working most of the morning, if not into the afternoon, coming into school for those couple of classes they need for a requirement for graduation. So it all depends on the situation. And again, it depends on the specific career pathway as well. Some of them are doing work that, can only be done in the mornings, early mornings on farms. Some of them are doing work that is done in the afternoons or evenings. So it really varies. They have to get 450 hours total between June 1 and May 31st for it to count as a full year of apprenticeship. Some of these apprenticeships, they'll start June 1. Others will start at the end of August, early September, depending on that company. And it's paid too, which is nice. These kids are learning life lessons. They're putting some money in their pockets and saving for college, I hope.
450 is too many hours. That's where the work-based learning comes in, and that can be, how many hours? That's really flexible.
Yeah, so with work-based learning, 60 hours gets them that half credit, and if they get 120 hours, they get a full high school credit. It's really about being intentional. I've said it before, I want to make sure that our kids are in electives that they want to be in. And I don't want to put them in classes just because it's an open class or there's an open block there. I want to make sure that they're taking classes that really pertain to their interests.
We have 3 kids right now that are education bound or, in the educational field. 2 are in the elementary and 1 is in the middle, and they're just doing a phenomenal job. In fact, it just made me chuckle the other day. I had the senior Tucker. He's like, Mrs. McDonald, I need Go Guardian so I can be monitoring all of these kids right now. And we're going to give it to them. So they're really doing a phenomenal job and enjoying what they're doing.
Sitting here, I think one of the things that would be great for May is to have some of these students come in and kind of present their experience. It's amazing when you get to see our students that put 450 hours or even 60, 90 hours explain their experiences to you. Sometimes it's hard to tell where they're a high school student or a professional in that field already with this kind of experiences. So it might be a good May.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I just have a comment. I think it's just really outstanding what you do. I mean, my daughter is a freshman and she's taking a start college in health class. I mean, I guess I never would have thought of that. Like, I always thought it was like a junior and senior thing, which my junior is taking some too, but, as a freshman, I'm like, oh, that's pretty outstanding. And then, like you said, just let them branch off and figure out what direction they want to go with things. So it's still things, all the opportunities you're offering them. It's pretty great.
Thank you.
And if you guys want to say something, one of the things that we're trying to get to is engagement, right? If you look at it, high schools are historically, especially for our boys, a place where students are engaged, right? They don't see it really meaning anything to them. Do you guys want to talk anything about engagement over the last couple of years since you've been in this?
I mean, overall, the students feel heard. The ones that come into my office, they ask, I don't want to sit in a classroom it was 80 minutes last year and even 60 minutes. We know from studies the attention span of a high schooler is no more than 15 minutes. So hearing them, listening to them, and then finding ways to make it happen for them, they feel heard. And they know that people have their back. I had a discussion with a young man today who's doing a YA plus welding, and it was a totally different conversation versus what the conversation I had with him last year. Just he's matured, an adult, he's making adult decisions, and it's great to see.
I would say they feel really empowered now to be able to try things, just like you were saying, Amy, and also to be thinking outside of the box. I think they thought they had their mindset on here, but now they see the world is much bigger, and that's been exciting to see.
Thank you.
All right. And then last but not least, just wanted to do some student acknowledgments. So we had our Big East All Conference come in. Unfortunately, we only had one recognized this year, but that was girls basketball. Madeline, second team All Conference. So well done to Madeline. And then Mr. Wills, last week he had taken a group of 9 students to the Junior Achievement Titan Challenge in Oshkosh. So they had a fabulous time here. And we have some other competitions coming up. Mrs. Radke Whitney will be taking kids that'll be going on to the leadership conference. So next month I'll have the results of what they come back with. So we got a lot of good stuff going on there with our students.
We
We did not have any board committee meetings this month. And then that takes us into APR.
So I did want to start off the AGR piece. I've gotten a couple questions from some board members with that. And there are some mistakes in here that has been, that Sandy and I have talked about that will be fixed before we submit this. But one of the things we're really struggling with this report altogether is with Act 20 and how we did assessments at the beginning, how we're forced to do assessments now with Act 20. Some of this data, we're trying to live in an old world, in a new world. Act 20 is new legislation. The AGR hasn't really caught up to that yet. So as you're seeing some of these, we're trying to just do our best of living in two worlds at one time. So as you see, we started in fall using ExactPath. So ExactPath was an assessment that we've been using for about 5 years, I think, right? 4 or 5 years. It was our first universal screener. And ExactPath was something that students took the assessment, and then there was curriculum that was attached to their assessment as kind of an intervention. Well, we've been doing that kindergarten through 8th grade, and then the law required us to use AimsWeb starting this year, but AimsWeb, we didn't really get that. When did we start getting to assess AimsWeb?
In the winter, so January.
So we had to test with one assessment and then come back and test with another assessment. And as you can see, those aren't normed the same. So some of the data was coming up, and it really kind of made this a worst case scenario with that. So some of this right now, I ask you just to kind of, let's wait when we get to spring, and we will have winter AimsWeb with spring AimsWeb. And the things that we're doing with that, we're going to start seeing the growth and the hard work that's being done in the reading and as well as the math as we keep going. So I don't know if we want to spend more time on this, but I just wanted to kind of throw that out there because we're in kind of this is a foot in both worlds right now with this.
Yeah, it's drastically different from last year's. So the correction, is that related to in mathematics that the students have a personal reading plan? Because that doesn't seem to match the.
No, so that's part of the Act 20 is you have to have a reading plan starting this year.
In math?
For math?
No, that would be for reading.
Because under all the math categories, one of the,
It's just copy straight from reading.
Yeah, and there were some missed of 3rd grade being in kindergarten. There's a couple other corrections that need to be done as well. So Sandy's aware of those and are making those.
okay. And do we know, I know last year, lowest was the same as, I just want to, I didn't understand the measurables. So we have at risk, lowest, and then bottom, I think were the different categories. So it just doesn't seem that it's consistent language. Was that another thing that was picked up on the, as far as corrections?
I'm sure, do you
I
know?
think that's
So,
ExactPath, right, so ExactPath did, ExactPath and AimsWeb do bottom quartile and lowest quartile, like, so the
Yeah.
lowest quartile and bottom quartile will mean the same thing, but then the other one, Fast Bridge, did like at risk instead of lowest quartile, so that's not
okay.
something we can compare very well.
Okay.
So having AimsWeb the whole time will help with that, I think, but I think bottom and lowest is just like which way they're designing it with ExactPath and AimsWeb. So, yeah, the numbers are concerned, like, I was concerned about the numbers, I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens, because if
Right,
AimsWeb
'cause-
sets different bars, like, it's not very comparable. But the copying and pasting in here would have things that didn't make any sense, and like kindergarten reading outcomes for people in 3rd grade, like, I mean, it's sloppy.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a little unhappy with the product we got.
Is it coming back again then? Like, is she gonna resubmit this?
We can,
Can
definitely.
we see it
Yeah.
once it's been corrected?
Yep.
please?
But I just want to say, like, the AimsWeb overall is a lot more sensitive. So we were anticipating, and we used FastBridge for the littles, like the 4K in kindergarten, to give us like a baseline, because we knew that Jamie is really involved with these literacy committees, even at the state level. And it was just known, like, AimsWeb coming in mid-year, it's going to be hard on districts. You're going to see a large amount of students that are below the 25th percentile. And so we use fast groups because we thought we'd get closer to where Ames Web would be. But even exact path, it's very different. That Ames Web is super sensitive. We have decided to switch over Ames Web as a screener across the district next year for K and 8 because it will give us better data on what we need to improve on the students or where their gaps are, and we can support them. You can't really get away from Edmonton yet because it does have that gap filling capacity. It's something they can do daily, where Ames Web is in that type of program. It's like almost like a mini forward. You go in, you see where the kids are at, you can see where their gaps are, and then you can plan instruction for that. Edmonton would still test for that, and then they can work on their own path as well. So that's how those two kind of play nicely together, but
Yeah, I mean,
it's hard.
the state is building it as they fly it as well. Ames Web was supposed to be out in fall and it wasn't, and by the time they had their contract agreement with the state, it didn't get till winter. So we've been kind of just scrambling and trying to make the best out of it. We feel very confident about the CKLA, the curriculum that we're doing with it. The assessment piece is just clunky right now. So yeah, we will have better, I would say, we will have cleaner data when we get to the spring assessment and show what kind of growth we have.
What are our class sizes for these grade levels? I know last year the kindergarten classes exceeded the 18-1 class size. Where are we at this year?
So they would say that there's 25 students in those classes, but some of those students are in an alternative setting because of their high needs. So I would say it runs around 22 in those kindergarten classes.
With first and second grade, what are we at? It's like
Second at 33, so it's about 15, 16. And I think kindergarten is closer to 40, so it's about 20.
And what was first grade?
First grade's about 40.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, next, Bob, what the heck?
I know. If anybody's deserved it,
iPhone,
he certainly has.
34 years,
Yes.
thank you, Bob.
Can I tell a quick story?
Oh,
Please.
sure.
So my youngest, who's graduating this year, Spencer, his first word was Bob. And it was for Bob's Fadersfield. I was walking the halls and I was looking for Bob, so I was calling his name. Spencer hadn't said a word yet. And all of a sudden, right after I said, Bob, he said, Bob.
Does Bob know the story?
Huh?
Does Bob know
Oh,
the story?
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. He showed up Spencer's first day of kindergarten. I think he was pretty proud.
So you're holding out for Spencer to graduate.
That's right. Good me.
Hmm.
Oh, that's cool.
So, very much thanks. Next, we have professional staff resignations of Ruth Limbowski with 10 years for retirement and Daniel King with 1 year. Is there a motion to approve with many thanks for their years of service?
Someone.
That was Katie and Rainey. Okay. Any questions or discussion?
And both of them are gonna work through the rest of the year. You know, Ruth, we may find some ways to use her expertise on a more part-time basis, subbing things like that for next year. And Daniel, thanks for his 1 year. He's going back to where he graduated from to Kettle Moraine Lutheran.
So that's where he coaches football and basketball as well, but he graduated from there and he lives in that area.
Back to Bob, is there anything special that he's getting any special award or any special plaque or anything like that?
We have a tradition that we give a bell. It's a large bell that you get on your last day. And then I guess all the retirees get together on the first day of school and then ring the bell. So that's the tradition that we have in Random Lake here. Plus, at the last day, we'll have to talk, because Bob's, might be, the group comes together and then kind of does a, like, story about what does that individual mean? Pictures from maybe 34 years ago, if we can find it, things like that that are fun. So there's a pretty rich tradition on how we send people off here.
Are we hiring a new science teacher?
Actually, with this one, looking at the numbers, right now, we aren't going to be hiring, we won't be replacing Mr. King.
So we've got two.
Yep, and we'll have 2 science, 2 math, 2.
Next year, we're at our all-time lowest for enrollment at the high school, but after that, we'll start to slowly see an upswing. So given the number of sections needed for next year, 2 science teachers are needed.
So Natalie's doing all the bio
Natalie and
science, and then Randy's doing physics and chem.
And first grade.
Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We need to appoint a delegate to WIA in the, for their annual meeting. In the past, we've sent our activities director. Is there a motion to continue that and have Mr. Miller represent? Is it Katie?
Yep.
Is there a second?
Second, Chuck.
Chuck? Any questions or discussion?
I have something. I've heard some people talking about our conference and a lot of the parochial schools that are able to recruit students to play for their teams, making our conference very difficult to compete in. And is this something that at this meeting might be brought up as a discussion point?
So we just had Stephanie Hauser at her PAC meeting on Friday, and that's all of the public school superintendents. And we spent half of our time talking about that.
So people are talking about it and there might be some discussion with WIA.
Well, discussion, resolution, discussion, yes. So there's, it's been a discussion the last few years, and we could spend a few hours on that, but yeah, it is an interesting time in high school athletics, that's for sure.
And just out of curiosity, how do you get on the WIAA? Are you appointed to that? How do you serve?
Like on the board?
Yeah.
Yeah, so WIA is a nonprofit, so they're a non-government agency that all the schools elect to be part of, right? And then we pay memberships, but I don't even know how much it is anymore. But then different school personnel try to get on to their board of directors and their board of trustees and things like that. So it's one of the things that we haven't had anybody on there, but there is the new elections are going on right now for the WIA.
And if you don't choose to participate with them, then you're not able to participate
In the
in
playoffs,
in the
and
playoffs. And they probably have a posted list of their directors and who they represent.
And I think they're trying to do a nice job of having small schools, medium schools, large schools. There's a lot of different interests when you look at private schools, public schools, all being part of one conglomerate like that. So, yeah. But no, the concern is real.
Okay, any other questions or discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That takes us to informational items.
Okay, first of all, I just want to put on board retreat. I'll be sending out an email later on this week, looking at possibly maybe that first week or two of May to do our board retreat. Same place, kind of same time. So look at the first 2 Mondays in May and let me know if either one of those work. Next, legislative breakfast, very interesting times in the state of Wisconsin. Found out today, as far as any kind of school budget that's going to come out, there is no appetite to submit Republicans in submitting their rebuttal budget to school until after the Supreme Court takes up 4 different things that are out there right now. And the Supreme Court isn't probably going to touch anything until after the April election. So once that's done, we'll probably have a whole scurry of things that are going to happen. And then from there, maybe we'll see a budget. Some think we'll get it by July 1st. Others think it could be September or later. So it's going to be one of those bienniums where we'll just kind of hold on. We're going to try to let our staff know what's going on as we go forward and go from there. But it's interesting times. At least the state is flush with cash. The arm wrestle is, do we give it back in tax relief? Do we give it back to different entities like us? And I think they're trying to compromise and find a place in the middle where we get some good tax relief and also try to fund the 2 different school systems now, because voucher schools and public schools are going to be 2 funding budgets going forward, it looks like. So it's like I said, an interesting time. And then in April, remember, we won't have any new members, but our board meeting in April is the last.
Cool. Any questions?
Can you just explain what you just said about voucher schools being funded, that funding?
Yeah, so if you remember when we do our annual meeting, we always talk about what our mill rate is, but then we talk about the mill rates that our residents pay to send our students to a private school. Last year, I forget what that number was. It like 20 cents, 20? I remember, but it was, a few $100s on a $100,000 home goes to private schools. Well, a lot of the public schools have been putting that out there and saying, here's our mill rate, but here's the mill rate to send kids to voucher schools. So now the conservative movement towards school choice wants to get that off of the public scrutiny, and they want to do something that's called decoupling, which would make it a funded secondary budget in the state that's based off of the gross domestic product of our state. So the thing that is, again, when it comes to schools, I'll give you for instance. For public schools, let's say they put $100 million for special ed, and they say we're going to fund special ed at 33%. Well, once it gets to 100 million, they start telling schools, well, we wanted to fund you at 33, but really it's 28.5%. So we get to split whatever money is out there. What they're doing with voucher schools is they're saying you get, I think is it 15,000? Or 90% of what a student that has an IEP needs, and they're guaranteed that money. So they're looking at funding 2 different school systems. One, they're promising one school system, a high school student that goes to a voucher school where we get $11,250, they get $12,500, and then for students that have IEPs, we still
Get
12 something, they're getting 15 plus. So you're seeing this dichotomy of 2 different school systems being funded very differently under the auspice of this is less expensive when actually it's showing to be more expensive. And the data is showing that we're truly, private schools aren't educating more kids from public schools. In public schools, it's pretty static. What we're doing is we're funding these students that were always there before, but now the state's picking up that cost. So it's putting more money into education, but not into public education. So, yeah, like I said, it's an interesting time. It's something like if we really want to, you almost need a whiteboard. And if this is a topic we want to talk about at the board retreat, I'd be happy to kind of dig into it.
Is there any pushback?
Yeah, that's why they're trying to decouple, because if they decouple, we wouldn't be showing it on our annual meeting anymore, and it really just becomes a quiet budget item that has a lot less scrutiny than what it is.
Because currently, right now, they give it to us as aid. It's on my October 15th aid loan. But then there's also a note that says I have to take it out because they got it deducted at the end of the year. So they look like they're giving it to us, but we don't get it. And it never went up considerably higher this year.
Okay. That's
So
it.
stay tuned.
Yeah. All right, that takes us into closed session. Board will go into closed session as permitted under Wisconsin State Statute, Chapter 19, Section 1985, 1I, to discuss a business donation matter. Board will move to a nearby classroom to conduct the closed session meeting. This requires a motion first to go into closed session.
Make a motion.
Chris, second. I'll second. Amy, this requires a roll call vote. Rainey?
Yeah.
Chuck?
Yes.
Chris?
Yeah.
Amy?
Yes.
Katie? And I vote yes. We are in closed session. Thank you very much. Nice job, Debbie.
Yeah.
You're
Good
great.
job.
Very good job.
Yep.
But after we announced last month that they took third place, everybody seems so interested, like, oh, we should bring them here.